We are. So I'm very happy for everyone to see everyone and that everyone's showing up for learning. And it's really a beautiful thing. You know, it says in Pirkei Avos that you should set for yourself a Zman Kavua, for learning Torah. So what is a Zman Kavua? A Zman Kavua is a set time. And you decide that like all of you have decided, you come to the shir on Wednesday night and it's set and it's kind of commitment, and it's a very good thing because it says, say lecha, you should set for yourself as man kavua lilmod Torah. It's also interesting that it says that you should have a makom kavua for davening. So you should have your set place where you daven. And it's interesting because a lot of what we're doing, we're trying to sanctify time and space. So when you have a set time for learning, so we sanctifying in a way. Wednesday night is Torah time, at least it's Torah learning circle time. I know some of you learn at other times as well, but at least for us, this is a set time. And then if there's a place where you always daven, or a few places, those places get the energy. There's an energy build up of you davening in that place time and time again. So when you come back to that place, there's already a certain kedusha in that place that you've created from your davening in a makom kavua. So the word kavua is set, and makom kavua or zman kavua. So thank you for showing up. So talking about Zman, so we're coming to the end of Adar Aleph. Today actually was my grandson's birthday, Menachem Mendel Meshaninov. So his birthday was today, and it actually was today. Adar Aleph, so it means that he was born in a leap year. So he doesn't get a birthday every year, but today was his birthday. He was the 26th of Adar Aleph. And so tonight's now the 27th of Adar Aleph. So Hayom Yom, the Hasidic teaching for today. And just to review and say again that these are teachings written by the Frierdiker Rebbe, that's Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, but they were pulled together and put into the book of Day to Day, Hayom Yom, by Menachem Mendel Schneerson. So he says, my father said, so I'm imagining that this is the Frierdiker Rebbe, but my father said, truth is the middle path. So this is a topic that's very close to my heart, because if we think about the tree of life, right, there's the midot, the qualities, the characteristics on the right side, which tend to expansiveness and the masculine midot, the masculine qualities. And then there's the feminine qualities on the left side. And the feminine qualities are usually boundary making, consequences. It's the more constrictive energy. I guess the yang and the chesed energies are the yin energies. They're the expansive energies. But truth is the middle path. So when we look at the tree of life, what's in the middle path? We have keter, that's the crown. Then we have da'as, that's knowledge. Then we have tiferet, that's the heart. And then we have yesod, that's foundation. And all of those are made up of, in a way, integrating or balancing opposites or feeding into opposites so that those opposites can integrate and balance. So my father said, truth is the middle path. Also, the word for truth is emet. And emet is Aleph, the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet, Mem, which is the middle letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and Tav, which is the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. So I once saw in Eretz Israel this beautiful painting of two mountains and kind of a bridge between the two mountains, and the bridge is Emet, bridging reality. That's the connecting force. So Emet is the middle path. An inclination to the right to be overly stringent with oneself and find faults or sins not in accord with the truth, or an inclination to the left to be over self-indulgent, covering one's own faults, or being lenient in demands of avoda out of self-love. Both these ways are false. This is interesting because the way this Hayom is written, it's saying left in what I would consider to be the stringent side, and it's saying that would be to the right, and to go to the right is to be overly self-indulgent. So that is a little interesting to me. I kind of would need to ask someone about it, because it seems like I would think it's the other way around. But basically, an inclination to be overly stringent with oneself and find faults or sins that are not in accord with the truth. It's not a balanced point of view. You're overly stringent, you overly kind of nitpicking. That's not good. And nor is it to be over self-indulgent and to be too lenient. So I'll just tell you a story, because I just spent some time with a dear cousin, and she was having some trouble because she was taking too much on herself, and she was feeling guilty for not being able to prevent something that was really not in her control. But she felt like she should have, and we're going to talk about this later. Actually, it's going to be a theme that's going to come in the shiur. But she felt that she's very responsible for something that clearly was a will of God, and she couldn't get over her guilt feeling about feeling like she should have prevented this thing from happening. And she went to speak to a Rebbe, a very holy man, and he said, it's forbidden. It's absolutely forbidden for you to go down this path of guilt and self, what's the word when you hard on yourself?
Flagellation.
Self-flagellation, thank you. It's absolutely forbidden. You can be helpful, you can do what you can do, but to like be self-flagellating is absolutely forbidden. So I just think that that's, too strict on oneself or too lenient. The middle path is the path of truth. So that's the Hayom Yom for today. That's the 27th of Adar. Okay. So now we're going to move into the Chumash, and there's a lot of fun things to look at, and fun things to discuss. So let's share the screen, and we're going to come into today's Parsha. So let's hide Rashi for now, for a moment, and it says, so the name of the Parsha, as Susan always likes me to clarify, is Vayakel. And the name of the Parsha is often the first word in the Parsha, or it's contained in the first pasuk of the Parsha. And it often is a theme of the whole Parsha. So the word Vayakel means to kind of gather together, to pull together. Vayakel. Vayakel Moshe, it called Eidat B'nai Israel. He gathered all of the children of Israel. Vayome Eleihem, and he said to them, Ele Hadavarim Asher Tziva Hashem La'asot Otam. These are the things Hashem has commanded you to make. And so what are we commanding you to make? We've been in the midst of this picture that I have behind me, making the Mishkan. We've been talking about the Mishkan. We had a break last week with the Chet HaEgel, but then even in the Parsha last week, we went back at the end of the Parsha to different things pertaining to the Parsha, the incense, the kior, the washing station for the Kohanim. And it says, these are the things that Hashem has told you to make. And then it kind of seems to switch right out of topic. And then it says, Sheishes Yamim Ta'aseh Malach. Okay, Sheishes Yamim Ta'aseh Malacha. Uvayom Hashvi'i Yihiyeh Lachem Kodesh Shabbos Shabbaton Lashem Kol Ha'oseh Bo Malacha Yumat. So
Kiddush.
you all have the English verses in front of you. So it says, Sheshes Yamim Ta'aseh Malacha. Now that's an interesting way to speak about work. Who can tell me what the grammar of Ta'aseh is? Is it active? Is it passive? Is it, even if you look at the English translation, you could kind of tell me the answer to that question.
The 6 days has to, whatever work you were doing before Shabbos on that 6th day, by Shabbos, that's it. It's done. Those 6 days have just finished.
It's a conditional. 6 days of work may be done. It's like that's the conditional tense.
Well, it's
But
future
not on
tense.
Shabbos.
Isn't it
So
future tense?
That's
though?
the seventh day.
Grammatically?
wait. Okay, so Helene, I can hear what you're saying.
Grammatically, isn't it future tense? Ta'aseh?
Grammatically, what I understand from the grammar is it's passive. Actually, 6 days work will be done. Work in the English it says may be done.
Maybe done.
But
Yeah,
it's
I
not
know.
saying 6 days you should work. And we're going to talk about this. 6 days work can be done. It's kind of like a passive work.
It's kind of interesting that they're translating that, but the grammar itself is future tense.
Oh,
In the second half of the sentence, it is.
So the first half, then it
Ta'aseh,
seems
you
like-
will. That's future tense. Ta.
Right, the second half.
Ta'aseh.
First half, 6 days work may be done.
Yeah, I
Under
see that's the way they're
conditional tense.
translating it, but I'm talking about just grammatically.
Oh, gotcha.
Ta'aseh in Hebrew grammar is future tense. You will do. So it's just interesting. I mean, they're translating it. So there's something in there as to why they translate it as may,
right.
but the Hebrew is not showing.
Okay.
Also, each day when you work, you can you can have like Shabbos like on your mind. So 6 days you can work towards Shabbos. And you could get, even if like let's say you're going shopping, whatever, you see one thing and the next day you saw something that might be better. So you want to get that for Shabbos. So you can always have Shabbos in that work week. And then by Shabbos, you've sanctified your entire week because you just worked to it.
Right. Well, that is actually a wonderful point. And there is an aspect about that. One of the Meforshim say when it says Zachor et Yom HaShabbat, remember the Shabbos, Rashi says, remember the Shabbos every single day, even when it's not Shabbos, by doing little things or by connecting to little things or buying little things or having Shabbos in mind every single day. So that is, okay. So 6 days, Sheshes Yamim Ta'aseh Malacha. So we're going to look into that a little bit more. It's future tense, but it's kind of passive tense. Uvayom HaShavi'i Yihyeh Lechem Kodesh Shabbat Shabbaton. But on the 7th day, it should be, this day of sanctity, a complete rest to Hashem. And then it's pretty intense. Kol ha'oseh bo malacha yumat. So Susan made a joke, but I didn't hear the joke. What did you say when we read that the first time? That it's a little heavy-handed, or what did you say? What did you say?
I said it's Kiddush.
Oh, yeah. And this is what we say in Kiddush because, because it's,
As we work
reason why we
6
keep
days.
Shabbos. Okay, so there's a lot of things to talk about even before we go into Rashi. Basically, we know, and like Sandra told us, that we've been speaking about the Mishkan, and we've said how important the Mishkan is as a testimony to the creative actions of mankind. That in a way, the Mishkan is the quintessential perfection almost of the work we can do as humans here in the physical world, showing Hashem gratitude and showing Hashem that as much as he did for us by creating a world, we take parts of all of the world, every little bit. We take metals, we take spices, we take wood, we take oil, we take animals, we take flour, which is from the vegetables. We take all of these things and we kind of, bring them up and give them back to Hashem. That's one thing. But then as important as that is, like Sandra said, but not on Shabbos. Do that for 6 days a week, but don't do that on Shabbos. In fact, if you do that on Shabbos, you're so confused, really, as to what you're supposed to be doing, because you're trying to build a Mishkan for Hashem on Shabbos, but the whole point is that you're only building this Mishkan because you want to show Hashem gratitude, or you want to be involved in a relationship with Hashem, and Hashem wants you to know that the way to be in relationship with him is to acknowledge him, to not work on Shabbos. So it would be, very much the opposite intention. And also I've spoken before that there's a parallel between the building of the Mishkan and the creation of the world. There's lots of ways that the wording is even, and Hashem kind of set the world, and he said, let there be light. And there's a lot of comparisons of Hashem creating the world and then the Mishkan. So it's very quintessential. Another thing about this Shabbos idea is, and the Mishkan is also, that when Adam and Chava were in the Garden of Eden and they ate from the tree Eitz Hadas, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, what happened in that is that there was another kind of breaking of the vessels. And this idea of breaking of the vessels, it's a Kabbalistic idea, and it's hard to really sink your teeth into what exactly that means. Because we know that Hashem was also creating the world, and he created the world with certain vessels, and there were attempts of Hashem to create the world within certain vessels that didn't work, and those vessels broke. Like how could Hashem have an act of creation that didn't work? And then we've explained that each midah was sort of an entity into itself, and they didn't cooperate with each other, and they kind of broke. So I don't know if my level of understanding has reached the point where I can really explain that deeply, what it means that they broke. But on another level, we're saying that in Garden of Eden, that's a little easier to understand. You could imagine like a crystal bowl called Gan Eden, and in its crystal bowl was a great deal of specialness and holiness, and everything was sort of illuminated and beautiful. And then when Adam and Chava did what they did, which is disobey Hashem's command, eat from the tree that they weren't supposed to eat, they got awarenesses that they weren't able to have, or didn't have the vessels, didn't have the wherewithal to handle the awarenesses they got. If they would have waited till Shabbos, they would have had the vessels to handle that level of understanding. It's almost like going on a psychedelic trip when your nervous system is not ready for that information, and you kind of have like a nervous breakdown, or you go a little mad. So the vessel of what was held in Gan Eden got crushed, not crushed, shattered. And again, there was a shattering of the vessels, and holiness dissipated into the world. And our job, I often have said and taught that all of our religious life is kind of playing hide and seek. Hashem hides, and we got to find him. And then there are those sparks, nitzutzim, the sparks of holiness that are hidden in the physical world, and we got to go find them and liberate them. There's a lot of finding from what's hidden. So one of the things is that from Gan Eden, there was a shattering of the vessels. And then in the Mishkan, we're putting it back. It's a great act of repair. So yes, there's an idea that you should work. Oh, and by the way, we weren't working until, we didn't have to work until Adam and Chava did the sin in Gan Eden, because we were supposed to be in some kind of harmonious relationship with Hashem where we could just like enjoy really something like where we're going to with Mashiach times, where we could be and enjoy and manifest and be in flow. And this whole business of working wasn't supposed to really happen. It's a curse. So after the sin of Adam and Chava eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we cursed to work. But Reb Nosson of Breslev says it's not only a curse, it's a tikkun, it's a fixing, because these shards of this crystal reality, this crystal bowl of Gan Eden got shattered and sparks flew everywhere into the world. And our job now is to redeem those sparks. And so when the people of Israel building the Mishkan, if you remember, there's gold, there's silver, there's copper. Those are precious metals from the earth. Then, oh, we actually have it just right here. There's gold, silver and copper, blue, purple, and crimson wool. So wool from flax and wool from sheep and wool from linen and goat hair and ram skins and tachash skins and acacia wood and oil, olive oil and spices and semi-precious stones, right? So that's, if you think about it, that's all aspects of creation. You got the animal, you got the vegetable, you got the animal, the vegetable, the mineral, and, you know, semi-precious metals. You got metals, minerals, you got everything there. So when we take the Mishkan as the quintessential representation of work, and we bring it, all these things, and we serve God with them, we work Him because we have to work. Since Garden of Eden, we have to work. But B, we're doing a tikkun, and we're bringing all of creation into a perfection and a. What is exile? Exile is when things get disconnected from their source, disconnected from godliness. That's what happened when they had to go out of the Garden of Eden. There was a disconnect, a shattering, a breaking of this idyllic world. But when you build a Mishkan, you're knitting that unity together. You're taking gold, you're taking copper, you're taking silver, you're taking animals, you're taking skins, you're taking linen, flax, you're taking wool, oil, and you're bringing it all together again, because where are we bringing it to? Togetherness, oneness. That's the whole thing of where we're trying to get to with this whole highway to Mashiach, is to be on the highway of oneness, the highway of unity, the highway of integratedness with ourselves, with others, God and the creation, us and other people. So here, look, what's the name of the Parsha? Vayakel, a bringing together, a gathering, a coming together. So number one, there's the bringing together of all of Bnei Israel. And then number two, there's this continuation of when you build the Mishkan, you're bringing everything together, you're creating a unity in the physical world, you're bringing it up to God, you're creating a new unity between you and God. It's all very well, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But don't get confused. Know when to stop. Know when to stop. Know how much is much. And then when is it time to take a rest and have Shabbos? And if you don't understand what Shabbos is, and you don't understand, even in yoga terms, what Shavasana is, or as they say by other yoga teachers, Shavasana, if you don't understand that, then you're missing a huge part of what it means to live in God's world. Because to live in God's world means that you're living with an awareness that God is really running the show, and God is the ultimate reality. And yes, we work, and yes, we do. But when God tells us to stop, the ability to stop is so quintessential to everything that if you don't stop, then number one, you should be, you know, your life, when it says that you should be put to death, I guess spiritually, you're not plugged into a meaningful life from a Torah point of view, and you didn't understand what you're supposed to be doing. So let's just look at Rashi for these first two Pesukim, and then I have some other things to share. So let's show Rashi's commentary. Show, why is it not behaving? Show. No, it's not respond. Oh, there it is. Show Rashi's comment. No, both. Show Rashi's comment. Oh, there it is. Okay. So Vayakel, let's just see this gathering of everybody. So remember, after the Chet HaEgel, Moshe was basically petitioning with God to forgive the Jewish people. So when does he gather them? When is this taking place? This is taking place when, on the day of Yom Kippur, when he came down, and basically he had I think he had the second set of luchos in his hands. It doesn't say that here, but this is when he came down. And then let's look at this Rashi. Oh, it doesn't talk about the idea of, it just talks about, this Rashi does not talk about the ta'aseh, but I want to talk about the ta'aseh now. So Helene spoke about it in a grammatic sense, that it says 6 days you should work, or work should be done in the future, but on the 7th day you shall have this holy day of rest. There's a lot of explanations, and they're not in Rashi, but this idea of ta'aseh, of working, and I don't want to say working but not working, because that's not really what I want to say, but I kind of want to say that. It's not working, so let me just...
Kind of like the expression, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
It is kind of like that. It is kind of like that. So let's just see. So, okay, so I'm going to stop the share because I don't know if we need the share for a little while. So what we do, and I think I have to say that maybe what I do, or maybe what we all do, I don't know, a lot of us do, is that we work too hard. And why do we work too hard? We work too hard because we feel it's all up to us. We, whether it's because we're parents and we feel like our whole children's future depends on our decisions and how we weren't there at the right time when we should have said this, but then we said that. So there's one way of that. Or we work in our, financial ways of working, and we think it's all, it's all about our effort, and it's all about how much we put in and how much we do. And we're very conscientious that way.
Rachel, can I interrupt?
Yes.
Justin, it's a very, very delicate balance between hishtadlus and bitachon. I just know, because I'm, aside from the fact that I'm learning the sefer about the mitzvah of bitachon, and it's very, very, if you're going to tell me that when you try to get people to sign up for that music thing that you did, were you thinking, I want money, I want money, I want money? Or were you like, I want everybody to come and enjoy, and this is, I live for this stuff? You were doing it, you really think you're like, oh, well, I want to make money and it's all about that. No, you put in effort because for other reasons.
Okay, I think
right.
You're making a very good point, and I think we have to address it. The balance between effort and trust. So the balance between effort and trust, the balance between okay, Helene, you had a comment? You wanted to make comment?
Yeah, so, like just looking at the word as said that you will rather than you may, that
Right.
we have a responsibility to work. Now if we had never eaten, if Adam had never done what he did and Eve never did what she did, but this is the world that we live in, right? It's
Right.
almost, to me, it seems like part of having the gift of Shabbos in this world that we live in now is that we also are required to work for 6 days.
Okay, I'm getting another chumash I'm looking for a different translation of that. So I have another chumash here, and I'm interested in how they translate, because the way of 6 days work shall be done, that's a common translation. 6 days work shall be done. But then there are those that pick up on that ta'aseh, work may be done, or work may be done, but the work will get done without you having to work so hard to get
Okay,
it done. That's kind of the place where I'm trying to get to. I don't know if I got there because my grammar isn't,
But I think the work, so I guess I'm thinking about it a different way, just because grammatically it does say you will.
right.
So, that you will, and that puts a responsibility on us to work, but that doesn't mean to work like, like you have to remember why you're working. So
Right.
the whole reason why we're working in the first place is we're working towards Shabbat. So
Right.
everything that we're doing is to bring Mashiach and to bring Shabbat forever. So you can look at, the work that we're doing. Even the building of the Mishkan was, quote, work. It was holy work, but it was work. But
Right.
incorporated in that work was also the rest. Like if you think about music, you can't have music if you don't have a rest. Then
Right.
you just have noise, right?
Right.
So you
But that-
start
That's
with
a very good analogy, because I looked in another chumash and I think it said 6 days work can be done. So that was also a different English translation of that. But the real point that I'm trying to make here, so let me just say here, I'll just take it again, just to make sure that I'm saying it right again. Work may be done. That's the English translation in this other chumash. But there is a work shall be done, work may be done. But there is so there is a point that I want to bring out. And the point is that, like Sandra said, that there is a mitzvah. The mitzvah is Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho, right? It's even in the 10 Commandments. Remember the Shabbos day and make it holy. So Sandra, maybe she heard Hannah speaking on Monday, or maybe she just remembers this, but that idea that you remember Shabbos every day. So Rabbi Nachman brings it, such a beautiful thing. He says, you got to work every day in the spirit of Shabbos, in a Shabbos-dicker way, in a way. So what does that mean? So in order to explain what I mean, I have to bring another verse. And this is a very special verse. It comes from the story in Devarim, when the people were eating manna. And I want to read you the verse, because it's just such a great verse, and you should know this verse, because it's very important. So Hashem says, who fed you with manna in the desert? Like your forefathers didn't know about manna, who gave it to you in order to afflict you, in order to test you, to benefit you in the end? Who's responsible for all of that? And you will say to yourself, this is the words, my strength and the might of my hand that has accumulated this wealth for me. But you must remember that the Lord your God, for he is the one that gives you strength to make wealth. in order to establish his bris with you. He swore to your forefathers, blah, blah, blah. So what's the verse that I want you to know? So it says that you might say, Kochi ve'etzem yadi. Those 3 words, Kochi ve'etzem yadi. With my strength and the might of my hand, you could think, but don't think like that. Because everything that you're doing and everything that you have and every success that you have is really because Hashem is allowing you to have that. So if you're nervous not to work on Shabbos, you're thinking that if I stop working, then I'm not going to have my needs fulfilled. If I run a barber shop, or if I run a butcher shop, or I run a grocery store, whatever I'm doing, if I close on Shabbos, I'm going to lose most of my business or too much of my business. Or I'm a massage therapist and I must, they call me, Saturday's a busy day. Because you're thinking that it's all dependent on your work. Kochi v'yadi, right? It's through my effort. But if you know that it's through Hashem, Hashem is bringing you whatever it is that you need, then you cannot work on Shabbos because Hashem's going to take care of you. So if you don't work on Shabbos, you'll also be okay. And then you're showing that you really understand that things are coming to you not just from the work of your hand, but from a higher place. Now, I know Sori brought up the part of, but you have to make effort. Like even with my concert, I had 25 people coming on Thursday afternoon, and I knew that I had trust in Hashem that I knew the concert would be beautiful, even if 25 people would have been there, plus my friend, the family of my daughter-in-law, plus the people who were singing. I knew we would be fine. I did make hishtadlut to bring more people so it would be more fun. I did make my hishtadlut, but ultimately, can't be nervous, you can't be anxious, you got to be surrendered. It'll be what it'll be, but I've got to do the most I can. But it'll be what it'll be. So Reb Nachman says that we have to, first of all, one has to know that all of our work, when they built the Mishkan, what's right here in front of us, they had to erect all these boards and get them established. And I think Moshe tried to erect, and he couldn't quite get it. He wasn't sure exactly how to do it. And I think Hashem said, just like, oh, no. That's so interesting. I got a phone call and it brought back the pasuk. So I guess we're supposed to have the pasuk here to look at, because I took it off and then I got a phone call and it put the pasuk right back. So I think that Moshe didn't know how to do the boards, and Hashem said, just put your hand on the board and I'll erect them. And there's also the thing with the menorah. He didn't quite know how to do the menorah, and Hashem said, just throw the gold in, and so these are parts of Chumash that are trying to teach us that we do our effort, we do our best, but we can't be so attached to outcome, because ultimately we've been carried. Susan.
Yeah, you know how what happens during the week is always connected to Parsha. I don't know if anyone else saw it, but there happened to have been a video out this week about a secular wine store owner in Brooklyn. And I don't remember the details, but it was something like he had this customer who was from, and he asked him to daven for his family. I don't remember the details. And he said, yeah, but you know what? It'd be a really big thing if you closed your shop on Shabbos. That would be
that too.
Saw that?
Mhm.
And
Did see that.
the gift of being home with his family was so scary for a week. Do it on a week. He was a workaholic. He always worked. It was so scary. And he's experiencing the unbelievable blessings of being with his family and loving it. And I think he's just become more spiritual from the whole thing.
Mhm.
Right. So yeah, I found the quote that I was looking for. It says it's in Parshas Pekudei, when the time came to put the Mishkan together, the Yidden handed all the vessels over to Moshe Rabbeinu, and Rashi explains that the beams of the Mishkan were far too heavy for anyone else to erect. In truth, they even weighed too much for Moshe Rabbeinu to stand them up. But instead of overexerting himself and trying to do the impossible, Moshe asked Hashem what he should do, and Hashem told him to try to pick them up, and then the beams would erect themselves automatically. And this is what happened. So it would be considered as if Moshe himself had erected the beams. So I was reading, this is a beautiful book. It's called The Rebbe's Pharmacy. It's little teachings on the Pasha from Rebbe Nachman. So it's interesting, somebody else is calling me and I got the pasuk back again. But I guess that's really funny. So Reb Nachman says that how do we, okay, so we've got a couple different things telling us that on the one hand, we got to work during the week. This thing of work will be done. So I'm not finding it exactly in the grammar in front of me, but I've learned it enough times from my teachers and other maforshim for there to be space in that pasuk for you to understand that it's not all on you. The work's going to get done. You don't have to break yourself. You don't have to overinvest. You don't have to turn yourself into a pretzel. You can kind of like be in flow. You can be in this place where you're trusting. And this is bringing me to like another whole sort of way of thinking. We all know that we on the highway, I said it earlier, we're on the highway to Mashiach, right? We're all trying to jump into the right carriage, chariot, Land Rover, whatever. We're on the highway to Mashiach. One of the things of being on the highway to Mashiach is we're going to a place where there's going to be more ease. We don't have to sweat and work against our nature and struggle. And like, it's not so hard. Becoming connected and aligned with our godly selves, we got to learn how to enter into the stream of flow of our own personalities, our own talents, our own being, our own way of being. So if, let's say, you're a school teacher and you absolutely hate teaching science, let's say, but you've been teaching science for 10 years, and every time you get up and you go teach science because that's what you do, and a person has to make a living, but you hate it, and you hate the drive, and you hate the people in your school, and you hate your students. Maybe you shouldn't be doing that job. Maybe if you changed your job, and maybe you want to teach yoga, or you want to teach embroidery or knitting, or you want to, do something else, and something else has your passion in it. All the spiritual teachers teach that when you find your passion, when you find the thing that lights you up, you do, like somebody said at the beginning of class, you do what you love every day and you don't think it's work. So we got to find those places where what we're doing are more in sync with our nature, so that we're not struggling against ourselves, making ourselves exhausted. We got to find that kind of flow. And then the more you're in that flow, the more things kind of, especially if you're in the flow also with Hashem, with the mitzvot, with your true nature, the more things kind of work smoothly. And then then the more aligned you are, let's say, the work gets done. You don't have to muscle it so much. You don't have to struggle so much. That you find that place where you kind of are in sync with your guidance, and then things can be easier. Not to say you don't do hishtadlut, and not to say you just sit in your room and just wait for the job to manifest. You got to do all about it. So the last thing I want to say is that
before
yeah.
you go on,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's a very short thing. It's just very interesting because the first pasuk in Vayakel, well, not the first pasuk, but it doesn't word it the way you were talking about it. All it says is, on 6 days, work may be done, but on the 7th day shall be holy for you. Oh, I made a mistake. It says may be done.
Yeah.
That's the
way that it's translated, because there is a a way that they translate that ta'aseh as a passive version of the word. Not you must, but in the Hebrew, even though Helene is telling, and my Hebrew grammar is not so sharp and shiny, but there is an aspect that it's passive, that it gets done. The work gets done. So yes, we often say the work shall be done, you should do it, but there is an implication in that verse, because I've seen enough Meforshim who bring it, that there's a passive aspect, that the work gets done if you kind of jump into the flow and you make appropriate hishtadlus, but you're not taking it all onto your shoulders. It's all up to you, and God doesn't have a part of it.
Right, and that's why it talks about the Kedusha afterwards. It says, because it shall be a holy day for you.
Right, well, that's talking about Shabbos. So,
Right, but I think it's talking about the fact that there's, all right, forget it.
well, there is a point in what you're saying, and maybe when I say the next point, we'll come to it. I just
Just
want
a day of complete rest for you. It's reiterating a day of complete rest for you, and then it should be a holy day. I don't think, what's it called? I don't think it goes into so much detail in Gracious when it's talking about, I don't know it by heart, but it seems more here that it's more in depth about,
okay.
it talks about whoever works on Shabbos will be put to death.
Let's clarify. Okay.
Okay, I'm finished, sorry.
There's two things we're talking about here. On the one hand, we're saying you should build the Mishkan, you should commit your strength and your body and your effort to building the Mishkan. That's a holy thing that Yidden should be doing. And it's particular to this time in the Chumash when they've been commanded to build the Mishkan. On the other hand, the Mishkan is a symbol of creative work and lots of different kinds of creative work. So there is an emphasis on working. And I'm talking now specifically about an aspect of the subtlety of the Hebrew word ta'aseh, which I'm saying when you're working, don't muscle it. Allow yourself to be carried somewhat or leaning on Hashem somewhat, and don't work with anxiety and with stress, because there's an aspect in this pasuk that is saying, even though you're going to work, let the work kind of, don't take it all onto your shoulders. So that's about the working. Then separately, we're saying, but all of this working you shouldn't do on Shabbos, because Shabbos must be a holy day for you. So whichever way you work, if you work in that more passive, allowing, flowing way, but nevertheless, when it's Shabbos, no work at all, for sure. And it's about Shabbos being a holy day. So, and of course, you need to do Shabbos, right? We have to do Shabbos. But now I'm saying a third thing. Work when you have to work, but don't muscle it. Keep Shabbos because you have to keep Shabbos. The third thing is marrying those two ideas. When you keep Shabbos well, properly, it's because you trust in God. You take time out. You use the time out to replenish. You use the time out to restore. You use the time out, like even in Shabbosinah, we say, and Shabbos, and I learned this actually from Diane, for all those Diane people on the thing, that when you have Shabbosinah in a yoga class, you're resting from the exercise you did before, but you're giving yourself koach and blessing for the work that's going to come after. Because if you don't rest and you don't replenish and you don't surrender and you don't let go, which is what Shabbos is all about, you can't keep on trucking. You've got to take your packages and, like, in a way, hand them over to Hashem. You've got to do that handing over to Hashem piece. I'm just plugging in my computer, because otherwise, even though I trust in Hashem, my computer's going to die. So I have to do the hishtadlus of plugging in the thing. But now the third thing Rabbi Nachman says, is how can you remember Shabbos every day? How can you make your work during the week have a little bit of Shabbos? And then Rabbi Nachman is saying every day. So who can guess what Rabbi Nachman would say? A Rabbi Nachman person. Anyone can guess? How could you bring a little Shabbos into every day?
Take a few minutes and like don't put your TV on, don't put your computer on, like, right, like something like,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly. Because Reb Nachman, he has a word for it, and his word is hisbodedus. Hisbodedus. Be with yourself, self-reflect, Reb Nachman's recipe ideal is go into the forest, walk in the forest, and just talk to God. But not everyone lives right next door a forest, and that's not always available, but at least turn off the computer, turn off the phone. We don't have to use the word meditate. We could just say, have a Shabbos moment where you're not doing, where you could talk about any spiritual practice where you do that resetting to, ground zero. You reset, you kind of with your breath, you're calming down, you're just kind of getting still. And you're connecting to all the things you're meant to connect to on Shabbos, your soul, your non-working self, your non-pushing self, your non-striving self, but your being self, as opposed to I'm doing. It's more like, okay, who am I? I'm a chelek Elokai mimal mamish. I'm a piece of God above. I'm a, ein od milvado. It's all God. I'm a flame of the fire. I'm a neshama. All these things we kind of connect to our true nature, but we can't do that when we're running, when we're busy, when we jump. We have to kind of take that time out. And then he's saying that when we do that, we have, our little Shabbos moment every day. And of course, that's davening, but you could also daven, blah, 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 blah. It's not davening like that. It's kind of davening so that you really get that connecting, quietening in. And so, yeah, that's, let me just see. So that is what I wanted to share for today. So it is funny how the telephone calls kept bringing the puzzle back, even when I had sort of stopped sharing it. So if anybody has any comments or and by the way, there's I just actually did want to say one other thing which I didn't say yet, and that is, there's a lot of things about the open-hearted giving, the people whose hearts motivate them to give, that all of the building of the Mishkan, all of the creating of this Mishkan is also required from everybody. They didn't just give gold and silver and copper, and they gave of themselves. Reb Nosson says that they gave, we taught this and we learned this before, they gave of their Nakuda Tova, they gave their good points when they contributed to the Mishkan, because this Parsha is also about Shabbos. It's, keep Shabbos and don't work on Shabbos. Don't build the Mishkan on Shabbos, but it's all about building the Mishkan. And that's all about contributing from yourself, the best of yourself, to erecting this Mishkan of our homes, our within ourselves, our own temple of service that we create within ourselves. We all are a Mishkan, our communities, our shuls, our, kind of connection with each other. Those are all aspects of a Mishkan. And in those times, they gave gold, silver, copper, animal hides, yarn, this and that, but it's also, Reb Nosson says, the best of themselves, their Nakuda Tova. They shine their own personal light into the avoda, the service of building a Mishkan. So that can mean, very many different things. So I bless us that we should find our Nakuda Tova, our good point within ourselves, and you know, contribute that to the mishkan of what we're trying to create in terms of community, in terms of sisterhood, in terms of, you know, whatever it is we're doing to bring Mashiach as a, you know, being on the highway. I'll just say one more thing about this Nakuda Tova. Reb Nosson says this is after the Chet HaEgel. They could have been feeling really bad about themselves, like they messed up, and you know, and Reb Nosson stresses that they had to, you know, Moshe helped them go in and find the good one in themselves, that they could hand that over. So when they gave the gold and the silver, it was also giving over this Nakuda Tova that they had to look within themselves to find. And Moshe, being the tzaddik, the Rebbe, he helped them find their Nakuda Tova to give over what they give to the Mishkan. So one could say from that if a person is not sure in which way they can give over to the Mishkan, you know, go to your local Rebbe, Tzaddik, Moshe Rabbeinu, and he'll help you to find that Nakuda Tova in yourself, that you can find it in you, that you have gold and silver and everything to give. But I'm sure everyone here is giving plenty, so thank God we all connected and contributing. So I said I wanted to hear comments, and then I spoke myself. So anybody want to say something, contribute, say, question, ask?
Can I
You know
just
what's
tell you about an
interesting?
advertisement? So is that you, Linda? Go ahead.
You sure? Oh, thank. It's interesting when you were talking about flow. Do you know that flow is a concept in positive psychology, in that whole area of positive psychology? You know that, right?
Well, I know it from spiritual yoga, you know.
Because I'm always, you know, constantly hearing connections between, you know, the science of psychology, you know, traditional and contemporary, and what you find in the Torah. Like they already knew that stuff, you know, 2,500 years ago. It's interesting because flow is a thing, it's a concept, and it's exactly what you're talking about. It's when blockages are gone and you're at peace and your life is kind of in sync with who you are, and you just flow. You know, it's a positive psychology.
Because when I read this book of Rebbe Nachman, I mean, Rebbe Nachman lived over 200 years ago. And he
Wow.
talks about, you know, being in this place of trust. And what's the whole thing? Sori mentioned this word before, bitachon and imuna. Imuna is faith and bitachon is trust. But as Jewish people, we have so many verses, Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, which means serve God with joy. We have tracht gut und sein gut, think good and it will be good. We have gam zu latova, this too is for the good. We have so many things that we've heard, you know, so many times over the years. And then when you start seeing that, like you say, the psychology, the quantum physics and all these new age things, how you think is influencing your reality. So when you think worry, anxiety, you know, fear, you're putting all that out. When you think, I know it's going to work out, God is, you know, I trust in Hashem, I have faith, it's all going to be for the good, this too is for the good. We're putting positive affirmations into our world and kind of greasing it so that it is more flowy. And
Right.
all of those hashkofas, all of those mindsets from our teachers from long ago are training us. Don't take it all on your shoulders. It's not kochi v'yadi. It's hand over to Hashem. Trust in Hashem. Make your effort, but don't be attacked. Don't be invested in so nervous, anxious way. You got to be kind of let go. And
Right.
I'm glad you said that, because it's a very powerful thing. And when I read Reb Nachman, I'm like, yeah, man, he sounds so cool. With that, you know, go with the flow, you know. It was
Exactly.
like that. I was like really thinking that. I was like, that really is medicine for our times, because
It is.
very anxious because we don't believe in God anymore. The world, they do all these polls and they see that the anxiety levels of students, it's gone crazy because they got
Very
the
crazy.
whole thing of global warming and that's terrible and the world's going to come to an end. And then the average American teenager is terrified to grow up, terrified to have children, because this is like global warming, it's heading to disaster. It's completely
Right.
anti-Torah, completely anti-Torah. Torah is the world's going to find a way, there's going to find new resources, we always figure it out, you know, God's has a plan. You know, where's this worry coming from? It's a secular Sitra Achra thing. Thank you, Karina. I saw your note. It's a Sitra Achra thing. It's not trust. It's not imuna. It's not godly. It's and so those people say, we can't have children, bring children into a world that's going to be.
Yeah, that's happening to a lot.
Yeah, that's
of
how it's really bad.
generation now.
It's just,
And the anxiety levels of teenagers way
Yep.
up. No God,
Yeah.
no trust, doomsday, you know, terrible climate change. Oh, it's going to be terrible. It's a nonsense. I'm sorry.
it is. I agree.
No, that's
with you.
okay. And I think like all that, it seems like, you know, people, when they have that degree of desperation and angst and anxiety, they want to, they need to find someone to blame and someone to target.
Mhm.
Guess who they blame for it.
Well, that,
Right.
Virtues, of course.
Yeah, but globally,
yeah.
globally.
It is. I've never seen
Yeah.
anything like this.
It is
No,
a
because we never were as connected globally. We never had internet and
Right.
social media. And, you know,
Right.
I mean, you know, crises and then crises that leads to anti-Semitism, but it's always happened in pockets. You know, it comes up in a part of the world. This time, because of all that connection,
Mhm.
global, all at the same time.
So it's a
Mhm.
good thing that as Jewish people, we have faith. And we have,
Yeah, sure is.
sometimes we could feel a little paranoid right now, but we
Yeah, you
don't. Because if you look at Israel, I mean, on my Facebook, I started concerts and, you know, I saw all these hundreds of Jewish women singing that song, Titanium, We Are Titanium. Who
Mhm.
sang
Okay.
that? Is it Taylor
Oh,
Swift?
I love that song. Yeah.
I never heard of it.
You know, yes, you did. It was
Who
We
sings-
Are Titanium. Like,
It's an incredible song.
it's a really good song. Mhm.
I just saw on Facebook a whole auditorium of thousands of women in Israel singing that song. I mean,
Oh, wow.
kill us, they bombing us, they this and
Mhm.
singing in the army and dancing and making concerts because we trust in a higher power, and we got to be in that place, especially in Adar, especially in this month, 2 months of joy, that our salvation does not come from anxiety and fear and terror. It comes from strength and trust and knowing that in every darkness, every single darkness gives way to light. Every
Mhm.
crushing brings light. Every olive that gets crushed, we have another drop of olive oil to light the
Right.
lamps. But we're heading to less struggle. We don't want struggle. We got to find ease. So wherever we can find ease, we find ease. But where we crushed, we have to appreciate that from crushing comes olive oil and good
The
wine.
oil, precious oil.
Mhm.
So,
So, so you know what I wanted to say?
sure. Well, I don't know yet until you say.
Right. You don't know what I wanted to say. No, I felt that was like a segue.
You
into
know what
saying it,
you
'cause
wanted to
You
say.
I
want to
feel
know
bad
what
to
you're gonna
interrupt this
say.
thing. I just don't want you to say, okay, we have to hang up. I'm tired.
Yes, tell me
So,
what you want to say.
so I don't know who is aware of this, but it's been an ongoing thing, even before this war started, that the Israeli people are thinking like, why aren't the religious Jews going into the army? And it's been a very big
are.
problem.
They are.
And and the worst thing is that they don't understand that. I mean, it was on the cover of the Jewish newspaper last week that
Mhm.
that they don't understand that we know that it has to be equal. Just like I said about effort and trust, this is sort of the same thing. It's like the effort is the soldiers fighting, and the
Mhm.
trust is with Torah learning. Like we know that, and that's what it says. Like the Torah that they're learning is giving strength to winning the war the same way the soldiers are. But the secular
Mhm.
people don't know that because they don't understand that's the way we think about it. And
It's complicated. Because there are a lot of religious people who do fight in the army and they do have
Yes.
trust in Hashem. And it's
well,
complicated.
It is
right,
complicated.
okay,
Yeah.
All right, so and then I just want to say another small thing, which is I heard years ago an advertisement years ago before people were glued to their phones and things, that there was this holiday getaway where they put you in a room and you have no TV, no phone, no
Mhm.
anything, no access to anything, and this is your vacation. And I thought, bye, Helene. And I thought, don't they get it? Like, you don't have to spend $20,000 to go to this island and have a room without TV or phones or anything. You can just keep Shabbos,
Shabbos.
because that's exactly what it is.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I felt bad for all these people that are like not knowing that, oh, well, we do that just, and we're glad. We're like, ooh. I mean, first you think, no, I need my, and then you turn it off, and then you're like, oh,
Thing is
Mhm.
that
this
it's
is
very
great.
interesting for people who want to give up smoking, for example, they can't do it. But if they keep Shabbos, they don't smoke on Shabbos. It's
Right.
because there's a higher power with the Shabbos. So Liz, thank you.
Mhm.
The thing is, like during the week, if you say I'm going to do a detox, digital detox, very hard. But on Shabbos, because we have a whole like belief system attached to it, it's
Infrastructure.
used to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
I've
So
always wondered how people who smoke just don't do it over Shabbos, because firstly, they can start going through withdrawals and they're gonna want cravings. And then right after Shabbos, they can literally go and light up, and it's like,
the
why?
Shabbos,
Because there's parameters.
right.
Without those parameters, psychologically, you're just telling yourself, I can't do it, I can't do it, I'm gonna have to smoke. So with Shabbos, you know you have the parameters of those 25 or 6 hours before and after you can smoke. It just takes away the
Right.
Mhm.
psychological.
And don't people that really think they need the nicotine just think they could just put on a patch? Maybe that makes them feel,
Well, that helps.
I don't
with
know.
with
It
with
helps
that
because it has to
physical
reduce.
withdrawal. It doesn't help with the psychological withdrawal.
What's it
Right.
called? I know, because I have a friend who I go to for Shabbos and the husband smokes and he gets all in a bad mood and everything. And my friend's like, yeah, because he can't smoke. He's an older, he's not like a young 30-year-old guy who just like wants to smoke. He's like an older guy who,
Yeah.
But he shows that on Shabbos he has that self-control, but he wouldn't really have it during.
but he gets in a bad mood though.
Right.
So
Well,
Mhm.
yeah.
I
And
feel,
just
It's
give
an
it up.
Okay, ladies, I think I'm going to say
Thanks.
goodbye.
Thank you
What
so
time
much.
is
Thank you, Bracha.
Sunday night? 8?
Yeah, so it's Sunday night. I didn't even make an announcement about it, but we're supposed to be having Rosh Chodesh gathering on Sunday night. Metz Hashem.
I'll be there.
so can I
I'll
just
be
ask
there.
you, Sandra, I mean, I would want to go, but you remember this whole thing, I can't sit with my chairs.
Yes.
Were you planning to go to this Sunday night thing?
Yeah, no, of
Bracha, I
course.
don't mean to
So
make you
tell
stay
me
on the
what you-
phone.
What?
I don't mean to make Bracha stay on this phone for this. I just
Yeah, I
wanted
gotta
to ask
go.
us.
Yeah, tell me what you need and we'll
Bye,
arrange it.
guys.
Okay.
I'll help you with your chair. Don't worry.
The only thing is Bracha's driveway is like a whole.
I know her
steep-
driveway. Yeah. I
Well,
know.
do you have each other's contact info?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. You guys don't have to figure that out.
Bracha,
All right, Sherry,
thank
I'll
you.
speak to you like tomorrow or something, or the next day.
Okay,
All right?
Night.
And we'll
Thank you,
we'll arrange.
everyone.
Don't worry. Mhm.
I'm
Bye.
glad you know half of my family by now.
I know
Helene
half
is
your
my
family.
cousin, but okay.